Hello, and welcome to the Catholic Passage Podcast. My name is John Sandy, and I'm today's host. This podcast aims to pursue the truth, an authentic Catholic life, a deep integration of faith and reason, and a joyful community of families raising the next generation of the Catholic faithful. Today's guest is Father Ryan Adorjan, who is a Catholic priest, writer, and technology aficionado from the Diocese of Joliet, Illinois. I'm really excited to share our dialogue through this episode, whereby Father Ryan and I discuss his background, perspectives of the digital age, and so much more. We hope you enjoy our conversation and that it might bless you in some way. Yellow. I'm with Father Ryan. Is it Father Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And how do you pronounce your last name, Father?
Adorjan.
Not Adorjan.
No. Adorjan. No, Adorjan, like a doorway and the beverage.
Got it. And I think I asked you this before, but you're not Armenian, are you?
I am, yes, but I don't know what else to tell you besides that. I have no idea. I am Armenian I wouldn't say I'm Armenian. I would say the name is Armenian, and so somewhere along the line, maybe. But I don't know any part of myself that would be. I know that, I still have family in Austria, so we have people in Austria, and then this name is actually, it's Adorjan. In Hungary, there's a lot of people with that name in Hungary. So it's something Eastern like that. But when we went to buy a car, the car dealership was run by a lot of Armenian men, and they treated us very well because they said, you are Armenian, your name. I'll take your word for it.
Well, so the audience knows. And by the way, I think maybe I shared this with you, but the only reason I geek out over Armenian stuff is when I was on the Law Journal at St. Thomas, we did a symposium on like the Armenian genocide. And I've always found that fascinating that like Turkey, not that I'm trying to be controversial on this podcast, but like Turkey calls it the Armenian incident, right? Like they won't acknowledge that they eradicated or attempted to eradicate an entire country essentially off the face of the earth.
Way of life,
yeah. But
you were saying that generated a little conflict, right?
Yeah, like the ambassador to the United States from Turkey showed up at the symposium and was like mean mugging me the whole time. I don't know. I'm probably on some like if I ever go to Turkey, I'm probably gonna be like in trouble. But
you're not gonna get very far,
Yeah. Thank you for being on the podcast, first off.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So that people know, I first met Father Ryan like no more than maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I took a silent retreat at St. John Vianney College Seminary for their lay alum that they do. And Father Ryan was like the retreat master. I don't know if that's the right word, but he led the retreat and the programming kind of led us through things. I was like, to say I'm a fanboy had a huge, I was so impressed with the retreat. And I don't mean this like condescendingly, so please take this as a compliment. But dude, you were ordained in like 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been ordained 1921, 2, 3, 4, like 7 years?
The big 7, yep.
Yeah.
The biblical number.
I mean, you graduated SJV in what, 12?
2014, yeah.
Okay. So like high school in 10.
Yep.
You are not that old.
No.
You speak and have insight like you're twice your age. And I mean that like in a very good way. Like I was blown away when I looked at like your CV and I'm like, no way this priest is that young and is saying the things that I'm hearing coming out of his. You're an old soul. And like it comes across in how you kind of portrayed the faith and thought about life. Like I would have put you as somebody who was a crusty pastor for like the last 10 years. The way you just kind of know the human condition, I guess would be the best way to say it, and the way you can articulate it. So I'm just a huge fan, and I thought to myself, leaving that retreat, I got to have him on the podcast. Like he'd be great, not only on the podcast, but like I want to invite you to the diocese sometime if I can talk to our new bishop. Like you got to get Father Ryan to lead either a lay retreat, maybe it's a priest retreat, maybe we bring him in to do something for the diocese. But a huge fan of yours. Can you give the folks listening a little bit of your background though, like vocation story? Where did you come from? How did you come to be?
Well, sure. The Lord created me with the help of my parents. That's the answer to your question there. Just kidding. Thanks for having me on, and it was great to be with you guys on that lay retreat. I was sort of surprised to be invited to do that. Especially, I think I kind of said this a few times during the retreat, but a lot of the guys who were on the retreat were guys that I had entered the seminary with on the same day, even in 2011.
Was
Um,
that weird, by the way?
no, it wasn't weird. Yeah, it was weird. It's a good word. It was just kind of I mean, it was a privilege to do that. It's always a privilege to preach to anybody. And I try to remember that it's a privilege. Uh, but to be able to do that, it was something very almost like full circle for me because as you probably remember, like what was kind of the mantra of SJV was just, you'll be a good man regardless. If you become a priest, you'll be a great priest in that way. You'll be a good father if you have kids. But either way, the point of college seminary is to knock the jerk out of the guy, basically. So it was just nice to see some of those guys be not so jerky anymore. And probably for them to see me be not so jerky either. But how beautiful it was to come to you, to them from the point of my own vocation, but then to minister to them and not just to be brothers who clean the same bathroom, but that they're living these fruitful lives. They have kids, they have wives, they have jobs, all of that. Beautiful. To me, it was a privilege to do it, but it was sort of weird. Yeah. Um, anyway, so I came to SJV when I was 19. So I did 1 year of college at a little school here in the Diocese of Joliet called North Central College, which was like a Methodist school, but I was studying English and secondary education because I wanted to be a high school English teacher. Uh, and I just have always felt the call to teach. I remember at the end of my time in high school, priesthood was not really on the radar, but it was between do I want to be a high school band director? Because I love music. I've been in band my whole life. I was drum major. I mean, like I'm a big nerd. And
What did,
then
what did you play?
trombone,
Oh, okay.
trombone, which yeah, it's something that has never left me. That's a gift. I still have my trombone here at the parish in my room. There's nothing therapeutic quite like playing a trombone in a big empty church at night. Bad day, that's a great remedy. So since then, I've taught myself to play organ as well, and piano. And when you're having a bad day or a good day, to play an instrument the size of a building is awesome. That's all I can say about it. But anyway, so I knew that I wanted to teach, and I have these great passions for music, but also for writing and kind of creating and speaking and all of that. So I thought English maybe would be the way to go. So I went away to the school, and then about halfway through the school year there, I just really, kind of the outlook on life started to change a little bit, and I was very involved at the parish affiliated with our campus. We didn't have like a Newman Center or anything, but these were the first time I met priests who were young, who were I won't say relatable in the sense that because they're very different than me, these guys that were there. But what I remember is that they were just very much themselves, and they were very approachable, and they were not the way that I perceived priests to be, which, like most people, is, as you said, kind of crusty or inapproachable, and not because they're bad guys or mean-hearted, but just because they're so busy and they're so kind of pulled in all these directions that I'm just some kid in college. Like, you're not going to have time to chat with me about anything.
Prior to you going to college, though, were you like was this either A on your radar or B, were you like, because obviously you were baptized, raised Catholic, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it was on my
Okay.
radar when I was 7. I wanted to be a priest, and I thought about it during high school, but it was kind of like that's just like not really what people do. So I went to public school my whole life. My town did not have a Catholic school, so just kind of, yeah, these ideas of public school. And I think um, one of, I a lot of, I don't have anything against public school. I think a lot of the reasons that I have had access to a lot of development in the sort of gifts that I've been given is because of the resources of our public schools. But I do think that one of the things that public schools encourage, especially nowadays, is more like you go to this and then you go to college and then you get a job and then you contribute and then that's how you measure your success, right? And there's not a lot of encouragement to take risks there. And so I think priesthood was always going to be a risk. Seminary is a risk that I don't even, it's not that I thought, oh, I could take it, but I'm not gonna. It's that it's just not even a possibility that I would even do it, you know? So, yeah, it wasn't really, I don't have one of those vacation. Priesthood is a vacation story. No, just kidding. I don't have one of those vocation stories where I knew I was being called and so I ran into a gang or I ran into a crazy life. I just kind of I trusted the Lord ever from a young age, and I trust him now that he will lead me where he wants me to go, and that my role in that is to pay very close attention to what he wants and the signs that he gives. Not signs like, oh, that leaf wasn't there yesterday, so the Lord is calling me to become, a Peruvian missionary. No, I don't mean that. But the signs of his goodness are everywhere. The Psalms say even creation proclaims the glory of God, and God can speak to you through anything. And if you're friends with him, as you're friends with any friend, you recognize the presence of your friend in your daily life. So to me, it was never this great mystery. It was always like, well, I'm feeling called to priesthood now, and I'm in college, and this is a totally different way of life, and I'm going to do it. So I don't know if I'm
And
going to be ordained, but I'm going to go do it.
and so you went from the diocese, like where was the college you went to? In the Diocese of Joliet?
Yeah, it's in Naperville, Illinois.
Naperville.
Yeah.
And so, by the way, is there a medieval times
Yeah.
restaurant show in Naperville?
It's not in Naperville. It's up in maybe like Schaumburg. It's
Yeah,
right off of
Schaumburg's the
I-90. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
Schaumburg's the
north. It's north of
okay.
it. Yeah.
Sorry, that's a weird
No, right
sidetrack.
off the
I go where
highway.
the Holy
No.
Spirit leads me.
Yeah, I love it.
So you landed SJV, and my read up on you was that was Father Becker's time when he was a rector, and at that point, SJV really hadn't had I don't know, a social media guru maybe. Like you kind of spearheaded this Vianney, what was it,
Yeah.
Vianney Network or something?
Vianney Media it was called.
Oh, excuse
It
me,
still is
Vianney.
called that. Yeah, they still have
Okay,
it. Yeah, it was at that age of like, so I graduated high school in 2010. And I want to say it was only in 2000 and something, six, seven, that like Facebook became, you didn't have to be in college anymore. Remember when Facebook was first started, you had to have like a .edu
right.
address. And so nobody was on social media then. Um, Not people like every day anyway. So that was really kind of at the beginning of, things beginning in that way. And so then Instagram did not exist until 2012. Snapchat was around, but I didn't get Snapchat until 2012. And so these things that are just these household kind of every kid has had them, as you were saying, since they were like 11. Uh, we were like, what? You can take pictures on your phone and they're not grainy. And then you can put a little filter on them and put them online and people can like them, or you can share your experience that way. And so I just started doing that on my own. And it's kind of embarrassing actually, but one of the big ways that it got started was, at SJV, I don't know how it was there, but every day for class, we had to wear general dress. And so after class, you'd come back and you would change. So general dress is like a polo shirt and khaki pants and some kind of shoes or whatever. And so there's a picture of me. Did you ever see this picture?
No.
There was a picture of me taken leaning against the wall, wearing a green polo shirt with basketball shorts tucked in, and my high brown socks, and like, tennis shoes on or whatever. And it's the most appalling picture that could, but anyway, the point is I posted it with the caption #born celibate.
Hmm.
And that just like my my Facebook loved that. People thought that was so funny. And then, little by little, you start posting more serious things or still funny things. Or a lot of people had the perception that, um, seminarians are these, again, like crusty, boring, all day, night, study by candlelight, you know what I mean? Um, Whipping yourself. I had friends' moms when I left for seminary say things to me like you're such a talented young man and you're giving up your life and I'm just so disappointed in you. As I remember that very clearly. And I just thought, well, I want to change the perception of this. And
Right.
so I started posting like I'm going to post the seminary wiffle ball tournament, and I'm going to post Vienna visits and the craziness that ensues with that. And I'm going to post. I think I was telling you, I believe you maybe have had a similar story. The people in Ireland Hall next to the seminary on move out day pushing a couch out the fourth or floor window. You know, uh, just things like that are so unrelated to they seem unrelated to philosophy, to the gospel, but they're not, of course, because it's just part of living. And to pay attention to the life around you is what you're called to do. So anyway, little by little started sharing life in the seminary, and I thought, well, what if we did something with this? So little by little, I mean, it was as primitive as it gets. We didn't have even a video camera. I had like an old voice recorder, and I just started recording and posting seminary and vocation stories and priest hero talks. And then, there was this app called, I almost said Life 360. That's not what it is. It's something like it was one of these first iPhone apps you could make a panoramic video. And so I made one of our chapel and I posted that. Um, then I helped the seminary get a new website. And then it just became like a joke almost that I started calling it Vienna Media. And then the name stuck, obviously. And so that was where the SJV Instagram account came from. That was where a lot of things came from. We helped them. I rebuilt the whole SJV website when it was still on the St. Thomas platform. Now it's its own thing. Um, we got great equipment. We redid the streaming capability, and all of that stuff came out of Vienna Media. And um, again, that was a privilege. That was to me the Lord saying, "This is something good, and this is something that we should be doing." If for no other reason than to show people what is life like inside of a Catholic seminary. Because
And
people think it's a Catholic cemetery, and it's not.
right, not Catholic cemetery, Catholic
Yeah.
seminary. Uh, well, and that's kind of why one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is you ended up then graduating from SJV and went on to Mundelein, whereby at that time the rector was none other than now Bishop Robert Barron,
Yep.
founder and creator of Word on Fire. Um, and you know, I mean that I just see this thread of like digital kind of interest at SJV, and then you happen to land at Mundelein under the tutelage of Bishop Barron, who that's sort of his apostolate, and then you go back to St. Thomas, get a master's degree. What was your master's in Catholic studies? But I mean, it had
Catholic
a
studies, yeah.
specific, yeah. What was it?
So it's Catholic studies is just this broad degree, and then you kind of pick. So you don't write a thesis for the Catholic studies. It's called your master's essay.
Excuse me.
Well, and I thought, excuse me, but
Right.
no, the way that they explained it is basically like Catholic studies is meant to be interdisciplinary, and it's meant to be a conversation between all these other disciplines that basically like looks at the common foundational question is what is the impact of the incarnation on human thought and culture across the tradition? So that's the basic guiding question of all of Catholic studies. And then from that question, you yourself, from wherever you happen to start from. So I had people in my classes who were scientists and MBA people, people who were just parents, not just parents, but parents, they didn't have a job, they just were staying home, but they were curious. People who had PhDs in other humanities. So it was a beautiful kind of almost like a colloquium of ideas. Other priests, there are some sisters there. Anyway, the point is your master's essay, you're not supposed to, don't present like a new idea like you would if you were doing maybe a master's of science or something. But the master's essay wants you to look at that foundational question: what's the impact of the incarnation on human thought and culture across the tradition? But look at that question from the lens of some other question that pertains to your field, and then bring that question from your field into conversation with the Catholic tradition, with all these other areas of like life. So yeah, naturally, I mean, I just kind of gravitated towards the idea of technology in general. Um, and media, of course, is the most common expression or use of technology, it seems like, for most people on a daily basis, although the lever is technology, your wheel is technology. So it depends how broad you want to look at it. But the time with Bishop Barron, he was Father Barron then, that was really instrumental for me because I learned a lot from him. But the way that it came about basically was in addition to doing Vianney Media, ever since I was in high school, you can go back and look at them on ryanadorjan.com. I don't advise you to do that, but you can find my blog posts from high school, which are so embarrassing, most of them. But I just had I was writing articles, I was writing about things I was thinking about, I was keeping up with my own Instagram stuff. And the digital marketing people at Mundelein reached out to me and said, would you like to kind of work in our little office? Because we're starting this at Mundelein. You know, Mundelein didn't have a huge social media presence and they wanted to get the seminarians more involved. So I was like the student manager or whatever of digital marketing. And so to work with Father Barron and learn his vision, not just a priesthood and from the classroom, but then to be able to kind of be a part of under his wing in this other area was just so formative for me. Anyway, so my thesis, my master's essay topic, the paper was called The Christian Yes and the Defeat of Nihilism in the Digital Age. So that's a kind of heavy title even, but nihilism is this kind of philosophical standpoint that life sucks and then you die.
You
That
believe in
there's
nothing, Lebowski.
exactly. There's nothing, you didn't come from anywhere, you're not going anywhere, and life is what you make it. And the positive side of nihilism would say, what is it, Camp Rock on Disney Channel? If life's what you make it, then let's make it rock. Yeah. So just have fun. And then nihilism it could turn into hedonism. Um, and that's just so common now. And you see a lot of kind of movement in that direction, hedonism being that life whose chief supreme good is just pleasure. But Bishop Barron always says that the human pursuit in the sinful world here below will always be uh, inspired by or pushed onward by the pursuit of the worldly goods of wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. So whether it's any of those, pretty much everything we want falls into one of those. And the sinful world, which teaches us how to have a disordered relationship with creation, with each other, with ourselves, and with God, is always going to encourage those goods, but to pursue them in a disordered way.
Well, and so, earlier you had said God can speak to you through anything.
Yeah.
And in the context of the digital age, and I guess here's where I want to go with this is I'm 41. I have four kids ages 11, 9, 7, and 5. And I'm trying to navigate as a Catholic dad, Catholic parent with my wife. What role does social media, the digital world, play in forming my kids to be, not just good Catholics, but like well integrated human beings?
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting because you talk to a lot of groups, some of them may be more fundamentalist Christian, but even I've ran into Catholics that are like this, that are like, all media and social platforms of any sort is of the devil.
Yeah.
It's the devil, Bobby Boucher. And so we got to, like everything's from the devil. And so, nothing's good. Like this Quaker kind of like it's all or nothing, right? It's
Yeah.
all evil, eradicate it all, no TV, no internet, and that's fine, but that's certainly not what Bishop Barron's perspective is, right? Like,
No, no, and I think that there's the common phrase like the best evangelist is the one who has the Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other, right? And you're right. There are people, I don't know many of them, but there are people who would rather kind of eschew all forms of, especially social media. Um, and I think it's my two guiding words for my priestly ministry, besides Jesus is Lord, because that's three words, but is nuance and fluidity. So everything has a million parts, and not one of those parts stays the same for very long. So to speak definitively about anything besides gospel and revelation is not smart. Um, so to just discount something totally without, it's just not smart to me. Um, and
like the
I
Dominican maxim, like seldom affirm, never deny, always qualify.
right, and like St. John Henry Newman, his famous phrase, you always affirm what you can and you only reject what you absolutely must.
Right.
Because a lot of times, and this is the way we were taught pastoral theology at Mundelein, was when someone comes to talk to you and they lay out their life story for you, the first thing that you do is affirm all the good that you pick up in what they've just said, that maybe they don't even notice or they do notice but need to hear about. Because you'll find it everywhere. But that being said, like you have to do a little atom splitting because, or maybe let me start here. Did you ever meet somebody who is old enough to remember a time when the microwave did not exist?
Yeah, well, my grandma,
Yeah.
yeah, because all of a
And
sudden she
then,
started using it all the time.
yeah. And then you talk to them about what life was like post microwave. Whereas we look at it and say, like, every kitchen has to have a fridge and a stove and a microwave. And that's what you have in your house. Um, I remember like I was raised in a house where there was a computer room, right? And you had to ask permission, can I go on the internet now? And the internet was a place in your house and you went on it and you didn't stay on it too long. And if mom had to make a phone call, you got off of it, you know? And so to me, it still is a little bit novel that the internet is everywhere and I can have it in my pocket. And there's actually probably more technology in my pocket than there was on Apollo 13, you know. Um, but for people who are like your kids' age, they don't know a world without that. They don't know a world where the internet wasn't, or where the internet was difficult to access or inconvenient to access, or where mom and dad yelled at you if you turned on the dial-up sound while they were talking on the phone with grandma or whatever. They don't know that world. So they're not thinking about it. It's not that they're not thinking about it like you are. They're just not thinking about it at all because this is just part of life. You grew up in a world where the sky was blue, and you don't think about the sky being blue because the sky is just blue. And I have this phone in my pocket. I think it is as simple as that in a lot of ways. Same thing with cars, right? Uh, a privilege even 70 years ago for a family to have one car. Now every family has two cars, and you're living in a world where you have your daily driver, and then you have your Miata in the third garage or whatever. Um, it's sort of like that, where um, you're making a big deal out of it, and kids are like, what could possibly be the big deal, you know? But if
Well, and I
you
think, yeah, I think
but
from the Catholic parent perspective, my concern is the internet is more than just looking up, hey, what time does, Geppetto's close for dinner tonight?
Yeah, yeah,
It's turned into access,
yeah. So the
right?
point I think is
And
like if you go back to the days when the microwave was invented, you will find, I'm sure, newspaper articles, or if you were to listen in, go back in time, did you know that these cause radiation in your homes and you're going to get cancer from the microwave and you're in the car? How dare we give kids cars and they're going to drive off the side, into the lake or whatever. And it's going to be whatever that movie is about Ted Kennedy driving off that bridge, and that's going to happen to everybody, you know. So the phone is the same way. And are all those things true about microwaves and cars? Yeah, they are. That's the thing. And so with technology, it's no different. And so it's very difficult because as a parent, you're looking at a child who takes this thing for granted, and you're trying to impose, not impose, but impress a dire warning to them. But it's not like, um, oh, don't put your hand on the hot stove, because that's timeless. They get that. That will hurt them. But at first, Instagram does not seem hurtful. Snapchat does not seem hurtful. This is an awesome way to be part of my group, have friends, group chats, share funny things, feel connected. Then it becomes a place where I go when I can't sleep or before I go to sleep. Um, but little by little, and I think that this is maybe your point, little by little, it's revealed that this can actually be quite harmful if you're not careful. And it's not to say that phones are de facto harmful, um, but it is to say that these things, and I think people are beginning to wake up to the fact that these things are perhaps a bit more capable of harm than we thought they were, if that makes sense. So it's not that they're harmful by nature, it's that they're capable of harm, as everything is capable of harm, and it depends on how you use it. And to me, I would say if you want like what is a priest's honest advice about the goodness or badness of social media and phones for the youth, the answer is simply it would just depend on how you use it. And as a person who is young, immature, unable to make great decisions, is it really worth the risk? I'm going to say probably not until you're 16, 17, 18. I know that that sounds maybe a bit puritanical, but um, I think about our own parish school. I think about the days I was a headmaster of a classical high school and I did discipline there. I think about that experience. I think about even some adults that I know of where unspeakable things are happening in direct message inboxes and on Snapchat, whether they're sexual things, that's certainly a temptation. Bullying is a huge temptation. But I think more than anything, it's just I'm seeing images of other people's lives and I am judging my insides by other people's outsides. And I'm looking at, I'm a young man and I have an average house on an average street with an average body and an average, GPA. And I look at these people on Instagram who are perfect and everything is perfect. And I think, man, I suck or I'm behind or I'm never going to reach that. And then my self-esteem is lower. And me and you, I'm 33, you're 41. You're at an age, I think I'm at an age where I can say, that's a lie. It's not true.
Right.
But consider that you're coming of age. Consider how hard it is to come of age anyway. How much growing up in junior high especially stinks. And that's just because that's just natural. And then now you have this whole other thing being added onto it where it's just a constant reminder of everything that you're not or that you can't become or won't become or whatever.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
course,
and
that's going to cause harm.
yeah. Well, and I just read not too long ago Jonathan Haidt's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I think I am. Haidt's or Hadditt's book, The Anxious Generation, where he basically argues in the book that today's mental health crisis among young people is closely tied to the rapid use of like smartphones and social media. And what he says is that like today's adolescents have undergone like a great rewiring, is what he calls it,
Mm, yeah,
over the past 10, 15 years, whereby like traditional play, independence, face to face communication, like what we're doing right now, have essentially been replaced by online engagement and like constant digital connection. And he says that that shift has fueled skyrocketing rates of anxiety, depression, self harm, that type of thing.
yeah,
Um, what are your thoughts on that as a Catholic priest? Like as somebody that has a digital background, right?
yeah.
But also thinks with the heart of the church, right? Like what are your thoughts, if any, on that?
Well, I think it's true. I mean, I think that's a really good book. And I think that that's a very common book. I'm hearing more about it nowadays. And I recommend it to parents who are trying to not who are trying to make the decision initially about whether to give their kids access to it, but are wondering what the heck is happening to my child now. I tell them just to start there and see if that's what it is. You know, everybody has a diagnosis now
Hmm.
of something, and you know, that's just a dangerous way to live because it actually, I think it takes away from the reality of what you're proposing, which is kids are really anxious, you know, and they really are depressed. And I think suicide rates are up, especially with young people. COVID did nobody any favors, but I think one thing that we're not totally looking at in its fullness is what it did to children in that generation, especially those who were in junior high and high school, who had no other companions besides their friends, you know, because you have the normal things that have caused senses of anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, wonky self-image that are always available, like pornography, for example, or bullying. But now imagine, as I said, that's your only outlet into the outside world, which for many people it is. I was at Olive Garden the other day, and
I know exactly what you're going to say.
well, when you're there, your family, but you know, and you've seen it at every restaurant. It was young kids. Maybe they were 8, 9, but even it was one mom and two kids, and all three of them, not one of them spoke the whole time.
Well, I thought you were going somewhere else. If you've been to
No.
Olive Garden recently, they also have those tablets on the table.
Oh, yeah, the Ziosk, very annoying. As a Chili's veteran, they have had those for years.
But not only the tablets, like I thought it was the menu. Like, okay, cool, digital menu, cool. Oh no, you can play games on it.
You can play
Oh
games, you can
yeah,
pay, you don't have to talk to anybody.
right? Isn't that
Um,
interesting? And
yeah,
here's my concern, Father. Here's where I'm kind of, and maybe I hope I do a good job communicating this, but here's my concern. My conversion story, not that this podcast is about me, it's about you, but my conversion story has its genesis at a circus tent circa 1999 in Steubenville, Ohio in July. And I mean, I remembered, as I said, the only reason I was there is because my mom and dad made me go because I was grounded. Um, and it was a punishment, actually. And I remember the sense of awe and like bewilderment that I had with the Catholic faith at that moment. Like it was so transformative. It
hmm,
captured my attention. It was dynamic. It was beautiful in every way. The monstrance came around. I realized that's Christ. That's not the priest carrying it. That is Christ.
yeah,
It was just so transformative. My concern is that this numbing over the last 15 years with these fragmented scrolls has it rewired the youth such that my kids can't have that same interaction with God in that same way in 8th grade at a, good old tent revival conference.
yeah,
And, not that everybody's conversion story needs to be Judge Sandy's. That's not what I'm saying. But my point is, is this new digital movement, uh, what effect, if any, does that have on God's communication and our ability to hear God?
yeah. Well, everyone's conversion is not going to be the same as yours logistically, but what were the elements of your conversion that you just described?
Repentance, certainly.
Well, I realized that God is God and I am not God. One. Two, I realized that God is present in my life because he wants to be present in my life. Three, God is present in my life to call me out of the present situation of my life and into his own life, which involves number four, I need to change and
Right.
repent and move on and do something else. So those elements are going to be present for everyone. And I will just say one thing that fills me with hope is that I don't think that this can really last very long. One, before people wake up to it. And I think a lot of people are beginning to wake up to it. And I know schools are starting to even, maybe not public schools. And I'm saying that because I don't know what's going on over there.
No, they are in
But I
Iowa.
mean, yeah, but like a lot of Catholic schools are one-to-one Chromebooks. And now I think a lot of them are starting to, maybe they still do that, but you don't take them home. Or they're still doing that, but a lot of the work is less on them or something like that. So little by little, but look at like Steubenville conferences, for example, or I think of the Jubilee of Youth that just happened in Rome, where you had 1 million young people there who were really present there. And so I think that there's something happening, and this is just my observation from being a high school teacher. There's something happening with Gen Z, especially, where because technology is not the only thing happening in the world. And I think technology has made the world more, is it's laid bare the world maybe in a more realistic way than before, where you can see things as they are. And so the point is the craving for authenticity, for sincerity that Gen Z has. Um, what I'm noticing anyway in the high school kids and the college kids here in the parish or people that I know in my own family is that it doesn't have this numbing hold on every single one of them. You know what I mean? That I
Mm.
think a lot of them are waking up and saying, this is not how I want to live. And what I actually see happening more is their parents are more attached to the phone than the kid is.
Interesting.
I see that, I think, a lot more than, not that kids are not attached to their phones. Of course, they're attached to their phones.
Right.
But there does seem to be, at least in those of goodwill and with sincere like connections with their own intelligences, which is a lot of them, that there is a growing disconnect. And I think part of the reason is, honestly, because how many grandpas do you know who are obsessed with their car? I know so many of them. I think it's the same thing that's happening. Technology is like a big nothing burger for young people because it just is. It's always been. But for me and parents my age, like I love having a phone. I love scrolling. I love getting ideas. I love looking on Etsy and shopping on here and doing that. But I don't think it has the same kind of like novelty as it does for young people that it does.
That's interesting. And because it also opens the question, is it that the youth aren't opening themselves to God, or is it more so that parents aren't parenting the way they need to
Well, I
because
think it
of
has a
that?
lot to do with that. And I think that young people who are hearing the truth preached, especially those, because what we have now is like our school here at this parish has almost 500 kids in it, which is great. Of course, not all of them come to mass, you know. Um, I think about high schools. Um, a lot of them don't go to mass, Catholic high schools, but that's not the kids' fault, certainly. Excuse me. And when these kids are exposed, like on a retreat, or, I've celebrated Mass. We have a big Catholic high school not far from here, and celebrating Mass there is like it was a genuinely reverent experience. And and kids are hungry for someone, the Lord, ultimately, to come into their life and say there is more to life than clicking and scrolling. And that there is someone out there who can introduce you to the real you, and that person is Jesus. And if you want, there are people here who can help you live that way. And then one of the benefits of social media is that, like, I don't know any gloomy nuns who have Instagram accounts, right? The priests and nuns and people that I know who have Instagram accounts are joyful people, and they're portraying the life of a disciple as a joyful one, you know. And what is impressing me, and maybe this is just my algorithm actually, but all of a sudden in my reels, there's like high school seniors, college freshmen, young people who are their whole channel is devoted to. I just followed this college guy. He's a Protestant, but his whole channel is devoted to him as a Protestant, looking into for the first time sincerely the things that he believes and has been told about Catholicism. And I'm watching this guy on a journey because every single one of them, as he looks into these things from Catholic sources, is being debunked. And he's like, his comments are filled with people that he knows who are like, "What are you doing?" And he just basically is saying, like, "I just got to go where it leads me, man." The kid's like 19, you know? Um, so there's a lot of that happening, I think, which is good. But I think about the kids who don't post or who are alone in their room all night scrolling away. Yeah, and that's going to happen. That
Yeah.
that's going to happen, and you have to be aware of it. But if a parent is addicted to the same thing, it's not that they're not capable of stepping in. Of course, they're capable of stepping in, but you're not even going to notice because
Right.
you're. you're doing the same thing, So
Yeah. Or
I
before you
think that,
realize it, your entree served at Olive Garden and you haven't said a single word.
yeah, right. Or yeah, I didn't even remember ordering,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that that's part of the issue is this novelty that we perceive technology to be is not that's not even like a brain connection between Gen Z and younger and my generation, millennials and older, right?
Right.
So I think parents are also kind of not to blame, but also as responsible for their own protection from that. But then what is like, it's this instant gratification culture. And so, oh, I can't have my phone with me. So like more and more, just in the last year, I've noticed like all of a sudden now we're bringing coffee into church. Why?
Hmm.
I mean that's a big megachurch thing, but this like the little treat culture, right? Oh, I just finished work. I worked hard today. I should stop for a Diet Coke. And it's not going to be a small Diet Coke. I'm going to get a large Diet Coke on the way home, you know? And then I'm going to
Yeah.
go to the doctor and wonder why my cholesterol's high or my liver enzymes are out of whack or whatever. But, that's it's this little treat kind of culture. I need to stop and reward myself. Reward myself. I'm gonna have a donut. I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna have that. The coffee culture, that's what I call it. I love coffee. Oh, what's your order? A double frappa mocha latte with 44 pumps of, sugar. And well, that's not coffee. I mean, what part of that is you? That's me. I'm very judgmental about coffee, I have to tell you. I think we went over that at the retreat at one point.
Oh, yeah.
But it's I just call it coffee culture because well, I was late to work, but it doesn't really matter because I was in the line at Starbucks and whatever. Okay. So what's that about? Well, I'm so trained to having something feed, me. It's called a feed for a reason, because the thing is though, if the product is free, like social media, then the product is you. And so you're being taken advantage of. Your time is being taken advantage of. The product is you at Starbucks. The product is not whatever gross drink you got. The product is you. uh, and they're feeding off of our need to be satisfied at all times. So I will just say that that's the part about it actually that makes me kind of nervous is the and to me this is very creative if this is the evil one because what is the essential element of the Christian life? It's
Sacrifice.
suffering.
Yeah.
It's
Suffering.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Self-gift is what it is. It's self-gift, you know? And I notice it in little ways. Little ways. I'm not the best self-gift, obviously, but funny things that maybe you would never think about in our parish parking lot. People who they pull into their spot and they are sideways, taking up two spots, sticking out of a spot, no one can go around them, and they just walk inside. Who cares? And so I leave notes on their car. I
Yeah.
do. Dear driver, uh, you didn't think about anybody else when you parked here.
Or like the cart. I don't know if you follow this on Instagram, but there's a guy named Cartnarks.
I love that. Cartnart.
Boop, boop, boop. Wait a minute, sir. Don't be a lazy bones.
Sir. You should put that sticker on my car. I'm gonna call the police. Oh, why? Why? You're the one who didn't put the cart there. You're the one. I love that guy. I'm surprised he's not been killed yet, to be
Well,
honest.
it's genius content. It has
Yeah.
me giggling every time.
But that I think is the thing that makes me the most nervous is just like there's a real unwillingness, it seems like, to serve
Yeah.
beyond what might benefit me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that is probably where there will be a great kind of arena for conversion but I think that's always been true. I don't think that's uniquely true now. I think self-gift is one of the hardest things to do in a concupiscible world. So
Hmm.
the world does not work in the way of self-gift. Uh, our auxiliary bishop here, he always says the best definition of sin is I want what I want and I want it right now.
Hmm.
So that's true. It's always been this way. And I don't want to dismiss your concern as a parent. So this is me answering your question as a Catholic priest. I don't want to dismiss your concern as a parent, but I also don't see a whole lot of maybe the context is different and the logistical side of it is different, but once you get down to the brass tacks of it, I think it's just the same thing that has always plagued human culture and human nature, which is my fat, relentless ego that must be satisfied at all times. And as
I
soon as
want what I
something,
want when I want it.
and I want it right now, and anything that comes in the way of that kind of satisfaction, not only, oh, it can be tolerated, no, it needs to be undone. It needs to be done away with right now. Or I'm just not going to feel anything. I'll just numb myself. So
Yeah.
is social media scrolling as a 16-year-old in your bed at 3 a.m, is that the new drinking behind the garage? Maybe, actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because the research is showing that Gen Z has lower rates of teenage drinking and even sex outside of marriage or teenage kind of sexual activity. That the age of not exposure to pornography, but the age of an actual like first time sexual experience is going up closer to the end of high school or even into college, which I think is interesting.
Ryan, ADORJAN.com. Again,
Yeah,
it's RYANADORJAN.com is your website. It's Love Speaks, awesome stuff. You
thank you.
post, I think, weekly.
I
Uh,
post, yeah, I'm in this like migrating place right now because as you notice, I'm switching over more to Substack. So my Substack is called the Pilgrim's Prologue, and I'm trying to get the URL to just go there instead, but
got
we'll
it.
find it.
Well, hit up his website because he has awesome content. I've asked Catholic Passage to maybe at some point incorporate some of his posts with attribution, of course. We put out a newsletter, Father Ryan, and so Father Ryan has graciously agreed to let us do that with attribution. But really profound, great stuff. You can tell you were an English major. Did you actually end up majoring in English?
I did, yeah, but just for the first year,
Yeah,
and
prolific
then
writer. I mean, just
thank
great,
you.
great way of communicating yourself, both verbally and in writing. But love speaks, love the website. Check Ryan out. I appreciate you being with us, Father Ryan, and it's great getting to know you. And I can't wait to tell Bishop Keener, our new bishop, that hey, you need to bring this priest from Joliet in sometime
Let's go. Let's
to
go.
talk. So really appreciate your time and insight, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Catholic Passage podcast, and we hope that it blesses you. Please check out our show notes for a reflection takeaway, as well as more info on Catholic Passage. We aim to support parents and educators as they pass on the Catholic faith and the way of life to their children and students. To find out more about what we offer, or how you might collaborate with us, visit CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us through your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.